Welcome back, Helldivers. It's good to see you again. The Force of Law warbond has now dropped and has come through with a whole bunch of new weapons and gear, with one of them being our second warbond exclusive support weapon, the pacifier. While many have had different thoughts on the weapon and how it works, I'm going to review the pros and cons of the weapon and whether it is worth using or generally passing up on. So the AR-32 Pacifier is an assault rifle that uses stun rounds instead of the standard kinetic rounds. This means it holds a similar design to the Pamela with their stunning capabilities. However, both weapons have their pros and cons, which we will go over later. This can be gotten for 35 medals from the warbond and is one of the first things you can buy on the first page. Now taking a look at the stats, we have the following: damage rate 50, fire rate 700, capacity 40, recoil 14, reload speed 2.8 seconds, and armor penetration medium. The AR-33 Pacifier has had both a welcoming and slightly disappointing take by the community, but not because it's terrible, but rather because of its overhype, let's say. As a heads up, I do recommend you bring either a machine gun stratagem like Star Wars with you to support you with your kills, or a secondary sidearm that is reliable enough to kill most enemies, as you will struggle with killing most enemies at times with just the weapon alone. Now the weapon will always be set into its full auto mode and has the option of single or burst fire mode. It has no scope range options, and no option to expand its ammo capacity or change its bullet type to lethal like some folks hoped for. As it has ammo capacity of 40 and does 50 damage, you will be expanding more ammo than most weapons to take out most enemy types. Basically, if you were to use the standard Liberator against a Charger, for example, you will at least have enough magazine left over after killing one. Using the pacifier though will result in using nearly all of your ammo stock just to kill one, so of course it's not recommended to use it against them unless you have nothing left. As its recoil comes to 14, it will allow players to nab headshots fairly well, while also having fairly good accuracy over time. If you wish, you can tighten its recoil pattern from vertical to a more centered area, which will allow greater connection from your shots to miss less. This can be done with vertical foregrip, muzzle brake, or flash hinder, and as shown, it does change it up quite a lot. When it comes to penetration levels, it comes as a 3, which means anything with little to no armor will be fine for the weapon to deal with. However, as the weapon focuses more on stunning enemies, its penetration levels won't matter too much here, as it's less about netting multiple kills and more about making use of these stunning options when available. Against bugs, bots and illuminates in terms of deadly fire rate it provides, it does fairly well against most of them. Like I mentioned before, the pacifier is more of a support weapon than your standard AR, and you'll see just how much of a difference it is against most weapons just from how much it takes to kill majority of enemies that you wouldn't take too long on. Ideally, the more weaker enemies like voteless, fodder, and troopers, it can easily dispatch them within 1 to 2 shots. Taking on the medium armoured enemies like the overseers and devastators, it can also put up a good fight against them, and can take roughly a quarter or half your magazine to kill one, which isn't that bad when you can also stun them in the process and then aim at their weak points to speed up the process. And then against the more heavier armoured enemies like the Harvesters and the Hulk, it can take up to 2 to 3 magazines against their weak points to destroy them. But this can also go against you at times depending on the scenario, and it is recommended to use something else against them instead if you have the option to do so. Breaking this down even more, because of its limited damage and ammo capacity of 40 with 7 spare magazines, you have to be quite selective with who you engage and who you don't, as you can easily burn through 3 to 4 magazines against an enemy type that would normally take 2 magazines or less. This is the case for the bug front, where taking on the Brute Commander for example can feel almost like a mini boss encounter with how much ammo I have to use to kill even one. Being able to stun them and then switch to my secondary and then dismember them is a choice, but it still takes so much ammo to take down just the one at times. Now imagine what it's like when facing multiple at once. It's absolute hell. Against the bots, the weapon, just like most ARs, does amazingly when using it to focus on their key weak points or to throw off the shots. I feel like I had great success against them, as their weak points were much more easier to aim and dispatch, instead of needing to use full auto to take them down at times. In fact, the stun effect, while not long, does give you breathing room to line your shots up better, so going single fire or burst fire may be more of a better choice here than full auto. And against illuminates, it's similar to how it feels to use against the non-armoured bugs, where using this against the voteless will easily decimate them in 2 to 4 shots. Against the overseers, especially the elevated ones, it does wonderfully with stunning them long enough for you to quickly dispatch them. In fact, this is where the weapon feels the most at home, as the overseers are a pain to deal with when surrounded, so being able to stun them even for a few seconds is beneficial in a lot of cases. Now, comparison wise, we don't have a lot to run with, since it's a unique weapon type of its own. I could compare this to the Liberator Concussive, which a lot of people have done, which is slightly similar to its feature, but it's more of a stagger weapon than a stunning weapon. However, comparing it to the Pummeler is a good choice, as it uses concussive rounds as well, which stuns enemies just like the Pacifier. Comparing the two stats, we can see that the Pacifier has an overall better fire rate, AP, and recoil compared to the Pummeler with its better damage and capacity. But also, it comes with better customization options if you wish to enhance the weapon's capacity, reload speed, or ergonomics. Both weapons with their stunning capabilities allow players to stun enemies much more better, which allows better accuracy over time, thus making follow-up weak point shots far easier than other weapons. However, the Pummeler has a stronger stun time of 1.25 seconds, compared to the Pacifier with its 1 second stun time. So really, Pummeler seems to be a better choice for stunning if you want that extra time added to it. In fact, as the Pummeler is an SMG, it can be wielded one-handed, and it has a slightly better overall mission use compared to the Pacifier. For example, if you're running away and being chased by enemies, you can shoot behind yourself to not only stun them, but also potentially kill them without needing to slow down. The Pacifier on the other hand needs to be aimed and slowed down if you wish for your shots to land, which overall leaves you more vulnerable to further attacks. So really, the usage of both weapons depend on what you really want. Pacifier has good ammo capacity, AP rating, and is good with dispersing enemies one by one. The Pummeler has better stun rate, and can be wielded one-handed, allowing you more options to escape if the situation gets bad, plus allowing you to also use the shield if you want to. They are near identical stat-wise, and honestly they do the same thing as each other. Although, because of the low damage rate, it's always best to add weapon stratagem as backup, just so you don't burn through your ammo capacity, and can use it when you need it most. So is a Pacifier worth getting? Yeah, I think it's one of the better stun weapons to bring with you if you wish to play more supportive and want something that has a better oomph to it when dealing with enemies. While it might not be killing enemies left and right, it does put up a fairly good fight against most enemies I face, and these stunning capabilities allows me to easily switch to another strong weapon if I feel like I'm not doing enough damage outright. I haven't had too much issue with the weapon when it comes to improving it via customization options, but I do feel like because of its low damage, it feels like I'm wasting too much ammo against many enemies I come across. Even when I have 7 magazines to start with, I can easily burn through them very fast, which has left me vulnerable many times before. Hence why there is 2 ways the devs can buff the weapon if they wish. Now, they can either bump up the damage to 70, which is the same as the Pummeler, making it more reliable on the front and require less ammo to kill. Or they can add an extended mag option for us to last longer within 1 magazine of itself. So instead of it having 40, it could have 60 instead. At the same time, they don't even need to add it at all. But I believe these options as a near future buff will be greatly appreciated by players who love the weapon but struggle to integrate it in their loadouts just for simply supporting others. Outside of that, the weapon is pretty fantastic to use and does everything you would expect a stun weapon to do. So there we have it. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you have any thoughts on the content shared, or genuinely like what was shown, then please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe for more future stuff. It was great seeing you again, Helldivers, and I hope to see you again soon.